All right, guys, so welcome to another episode of the Imperfectly Perfect podcast. Today's guest, another incredible guest for us, guys. He began his journey into a world of make-believe at a young age, working in film and TV on an array of children's series. And with over 2 decades of evolution, his credits including series such as Winners and Losers, Neighbours, and Elephant Princess. A lifetime of positivity and optimism hit a sharp resistance, a polar opposite perspective, and almost lost him all that he had ever known to be. But like the caterpillar, re-emerging to find a true state of possibility and happiness, which leads him to his greatest role yet, a soon-to-be father. Please welcome Damien Bodie.
Glenn, thank you so much for having me on the show. And also thank you so much for creating this movement. You know, when you asked me, we stumbled across each other. And that's what I think is beautiful with this kind of material, is that clearly you have gone through a very similar situation to myself, where we had a shift in our life that made us say, there's got to be more. There's got to be more to what's going on than just on social media. And honestly, we all just want to be happy. Yeah. And so many people aren't happy, and it's awful. I guess, yeah, like, I mean, I don't want to jump straight into explaining about myself, but briefly, yeah. I could say that, you know, I grew up very optimistic growing up. I think that's why I found the industry. Yeah. You know, I mean, with you and your photography, same thing. I'm sure when you find a passion and you just, it's like your fire, and you feel so alive and electric. And that's what acting was to me. Yeah. I discovered it at a really young age. I hassled my parents to get into it. And as soon as I was on set, I was like in my happy place. And so much so it had got to a point where I even knew, and I would say to people, even my girlfriend, who had never really seen me on set because she's a nurse, and, you know, we'd sort of met off that kind of like world. I was like, I'm my happiest when I'm on set. Like, you wouldn't imagine on how happy I am. Yeah. But, you know, Wayne Dyer has a saying, which is, if you are what you do, then when you don't, you aren't. And the hard thing is when, as an actor, when you're not acting or you're not on set, you think, well, what am I giving? What purpose am I? I'm useless, maybe. And then, of course, you start to go down the vicious cycle. And this is what happened to me a couple of years ago, where I started to lose that optimism. Because we all get into the industry because we're we you know, I'm not sure what it was for photography for you. Was it when you first picked up a camera? But for me, it was like that first getting on set, getting to play, being creative with multiple people, getting to meet interesting people. Also, just even, and especially the thing of people giving you praise over something that you enjoy doing, you know, especially like for your work or in acting, you know, we're very lucky that people see it. And so it's either that first time you do a play and that audience applauds, and then your parents see you afterwards and you feel really good. It's addictive. And then, so I guess my turn came when I started to doubt everything, and I became very pessimistic. And I think I blame a lot of, you know, the hardest thing was I can't blame anybody. I can't blame my parents because they were supportive. I had so many supportive friends around me. You know, my agents believed in me, and who didn't believe in me? Me. You know, and I know that it wasn't even me. It's sort of, I do believe everything is energy, whether it's audio, visual, like what is sound waves? Like, you can't see them, but they exist. What is AM, FM radio? What is Wi-Fi? What is Bluetooth? Yeah. You know, these things like transistor radio, these things we don't see, but they exist. And for me, I just fell on a frequency that pulled me down an awful spiral of self-doubt. So much so that it got to the point where I was, that's it. I've got to get out of this otherwise. And at the same time, it's no coincidence. Yeah. I almost lost my wife, my now wife, but I almost lost the woman of my dreams because I was doubting what I was doing. I almost gave up on an incredible opportunity in America because I had a green card and I was going over there to chase acting. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm throwing away money and I'm getting depressed. And I wasn't seeing my friends and family. Like, I almost literally let go of my career, my love, everything that I knew that I was going to be. And of course, as soon as you lose that, you think, well, what am I now? I'm useless to the world. And so, you know, I was very lucky that a couple of books changed my life. One was Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, which is all about ego. And it's basically the power of what the ego takes over in our minds, and also alerted me to this thing of that we're not our thoughts, we're the awareness of our thoughts. So that sort of shifted. And another book called Addictions by Russell Brand, I just listened to it because I loved Russell Brand and he was so incredibly hilarious. And I was like, well, whatever. Like, I was like, I'm not addicted to anything. Like, I'll just listen to his funny banter. And I was listening to it because addiction can be anything. It can be, you know, chocolate cake. It can be, you know, sex. It can be, you know, like alcohol. And I started to realize that I was addicted to acting, and that I likened it to alcohol. Now I do realize that that's chemical and it is really like but I'm only doing it for the metaphor purpose here. But I realized that just like going out, but needing a drink to do it, it was just like I needed to be performing. And if I wasn't performing, then people wouldn't like me, you know, and an audition was like having just one drink with a friend, you know, where it's just that, but then it's that, oh, we should keep doing this. It was this desperation of like, well, this one drink, like we should stay out late. Like, and that's what an audition is. It's almost that taste of actually getting a role that you might, you know, and it's like that, it leads, like, give me more of it. And just like any addiction, whether it be coffee, if you feel like you can't function without it, it's a dangerous slope to be in.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for me, I realized that if I was in this desperate state to need it, then I needed to quit it. I needed to let go. I needed to give up. And as soon as that did, and as soon as I realized that actually people don't like me because I'm an actor, that's people like me because I'm me. You know, and the hard thing, especially for celebrities or actors or anybody in the limelight, is this question of what do the fans actually want, you know? And it's this weird term, followers. I mean, followers is like the worst term I think you can label for social media. Like on Facebook, it's friends, you know, or likes, like if it's a page. So that's like I like you, like, great, that's nice. But followers gives this weird sense of leadership, which is nice if it's like, oh, well, I hope to lead by example, of course. But it gives you this thing of like, well, what do they want? Well, they just want either my past success. They want those past credits that I've done. Like, people only like me because I was once on Neighbours, or people only like me because I was once on Winners and Losers. And there's this quote by Lao Tzu, which was in 500 BC, so 2,500 years ago, saying, you know, if you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. And if you're and if you're at peace, you're living in the present. And so as soon as I heard that, I was like, wow, that is just remarkable, that I was either living depressed through my past career, or I was anxious about a possible no career, like not even anxious, like a possibly good career, about, oh, no career. What if I never act again? Which is absolutely ridiculous because, you know, I mean, at 35, I hope to live to 120. So I'm sure there's another role for me coming. But the funny thing is that as soon as I let go of my need to impress and be an actor, all of a sudden opportunities to act came out of nowhere.
It's a question
because once again, and it's this idea of like, I really believe, there's a quote, I don't know who said it, where it's that idea of like, a good actor doesn't have something that bad actors don't have. It's that good actors don't have something that bad actors have, which is this resistance of being in their own way, which honestly, like we see in many other things. I think people have this and we see it online, we see it in politics, we see it in the news of the term of blame.
Yeah.
You know, and blame of agents or cast, which I can't even believe. When anybody, I'm sorry, I'm talking so much here, Glenn, as well. I have not let you get a word in. My apologies. But I was going to say that for actors as well, like, you know, they're like, oh, you know, my agent doesn't send me out enough, or that casting agent never gets me in. Like I now, like the old me, and then I sort of lost it for a bit, but I'm back, is this concept of an agent, or, you know, even like crew, casting, are all here for actors.
Yeah.
It's like a casting agent has given up their life to do a job that is finding like great actors for great productions. An agent, the same thing. They are there purely to rep actors.
Yeah.
So you need to love them. You know what I mean? So it's this thing of blame just honestly doesn't work. And if you're only gonna and people often, too often, and Jim Rohn says this, it's you will blame everybody except the one true cause, which is blaming yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like, because of course that can put you in a darker state too, to sort of blame yourself for everything you've done, but to take ownership of everything that's happened and everything that can happen by putting it into your own hands. You know, like Glenn, you know, I've looked up your story, and for you to do this at a time when the world is in chaos or seems to be in chaos, you're a family man, you're a photographer, but you're working construction, but you lost a friend.
Yep.
And I mean, I have been incredibly lucky. And this is another thing that, guys, anybody watching, if you haven't lost someone or your parent, or enjoy every day that you have them, because you don't know how long you will have them. And it's this remarkable thing that's similar, where the greatest comedic actor, I believe, of all time, Robin Williams, who made everybody feel good no matter what movie he was in. Everybody loves him, and yet he didn't love himself. And it breaks my heart. And to be honest, like, I felt probably not at that level, certainly not, but I just know that too many actors, but also people are just, you know, are just feeling too dark right now. And for you to come on and do this campaign, and then that you found me, and I didn't know about you yet, but we were on the same page, and I am so appreciative that you would have me here on this podcast. And because you don't need me, you've already got like the biggest stars around the world, like chatting, and you've got all these articles, and you are part of a movement, and I'm only here to be part of your movement now. So whatever you need, Glenn. But anyway, I just wanted to explain a little bit about my story and how it all went, and how I've all sort of like fallen out of it a little bit. But what can I do for you, Glenn? How can I help?
I love it. And you know what, mate? You just said it so perfectly there. I mean, you shared your story. Everybody has got a story. And I suppose my background is health and fitness, over 25 years running health clubs. I took that opportunity in construction because I saw a way of, I can make X amount of money, work hard, take it to America, take it to the UK, do this, because there was something more important than my ego. And the very same day that I happened to scroll on social media and you was doing a live was just the day that your words just hit me there, because it was everything that I've learned along my journey. And you're pretty, I don't know you much, I'm getting to know you, but you're animated. You can feel the energy, but I can also sense when you've been through adversity, you kind of become more empathetic, and you can feel there's a story. And you also pick up on what you said there, frequency and energy. And when you said, you don't need me, we're on the same level. There's a connection there. And that's what I've come to learn. And I'm like, one of the best things I ever heard was from one of the most successful businessmen, who learned it from a lady when he went on a retreat. And it was like, which is the quickest way to raise your vibration? The truth. Once you step into your truth and you own who you are, that's when opportunities come. So I suppose one of the questions that I did want to bring to you, you kind of touched upon it when you was like, as soon as you let it go, opportunities came. Now, I have learned that through my journey as well, because I'm so passionate about this. I push things sometimes and I'm like, right. And then you put blockages on it. So life is a lesson that we're always evolving. But I was going to say to you, did you find that the more addicted you became to acting, and the more you were pushing yourself, your abilities, your capabilities, and wanting to do stuff, you were pushing it further away as well?
Of course. I mean, and it's a wild thing too, which, as you mentioned, like when you get that momentum, and it's fear of failure, but then it's also fear of success. You know, it's that concept of you know, it's that idea of how will I handle it, and how busy will I get, and will I change, and will my friends support me? You know, because we see it, and it is hard in our industry too. And I've had friends hit it really big, and other mutual friends of them be a little bit jealous.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, they're our friend. Shouldn't we want them? But, you know, but you know that, like, it's that thing of like, you always sometimes worry if you book a job on telling certain friends, because you're like, like other friends, you know, you can tell, and they will rally behind you and be like, this is like, I have friends that when they tell me they've booked a job, I cry, because I literally am like, it's like me, because I'm like, oh, the way you did it. And I knew this was going to happen. And I'm just so proud of you. And I'm proud of like what we're doing. And your evidence has proven to me that I can do it. And it's definitely, the blockage is a hard one. And this is why, and it's so uncanny that you found me in the concept of, I pushed, and this was thanks to like Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. They always teach where it's about imperfect action.
Yeah.
Which is just that concept, because I've been a perfectionist my whole entire life. I would never, like, I would make something, like, either, multiple times I've written, nobody's seen it, because I won't even show a close friend, because I'll be like, oh, the way I spell is not great, or the grammar and all of that, or I'll make a clip and not actually upload it, or I'll write a post and not even send it, because I'm like, oh, maybe people won't get it. But the live aspect, and even with this, like talking to you live, this is the old me would have never done this.
Yeah.
And even that day when you're talking about frequency, it's like, I didn't know why I went live. And now I know it was that we were supposed to connect for this reason, and opportunities come out of that. And then you make connections. And as soon as you reached out, and I was like, wow, we are so similar. And it is hard. The hardest thing is to get out of your own way. Yeah. And like how to do it. It's pretty much just, when you get the inspiration, just don't stop the follow through. It is so easy to get excited about something and then say, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it later. But if you can do it now, some things you can't. But if it is, just call that friend. If it is, you know, maybe I'm gonna write to this person. Or, you know what, I'm going to spend some time on me. Or, you know what, right now I feel like I need to meditate. I've started to trust my own instincts, where it's this amazing thing that Wayne Dyer sort of compared it to, where he sort of talks about the idea of, if, you know, a prayer is you talking to God, or like, say a prayer is like a manifestation or talking to the universe. And I'm not trying to get religious here, because I know people are very, very sensitive with this sort of stuff. But whether or not, even like, if I'm going to compare God, it's like God, universe, or you know, the simulation, or you, right? Whatever it is, your higher power, it doesn't matter. If you're talking to it through prayer, then intuition is the prayer talking back to you. Yeah. So when you're feeling that, and what I know now more than anything is that when you're feeling good, the answers come. Like, because when we're not feeling good, we're probably stuck on the problem. But when we're feeling good, we're open to a solution. Yeah. And the hardest thing, especially, you know, depression is so consuming that it's hard to hear. Like, we all know, like, I know this specifically, because it's like this thing of, if you want an answer, whether it's good or bad, you call, you probably know the answer that they're going to give you. Mm. So if you, like, say, Glenn, if you have a great idea for a business, right? Or an idea or an opportunity, you could call the friend that will say, that's expensive. Listen, I started an app and it didn't pay off. Or, you know what? Like, I've got into business with this guy. Like, I wouldn't do it. Or there's the friend that says, I wish I'd thought of it. Yeah. Like, how can I help? What can I do? And that's the difference in life. It's like, we actually already know the answer we're going to get. Like, I've been very blessed, because my mum, and I only just realized this recently, whenever I call her and I have a question, she pretty much just gets me to answer it myself. And if I answer, I'm like, oh, I don't think I should be doing this. She's like, yeah, I think you're right. Or if I'm like, yeah, I think I should be doing this. She's like, yeah, well, I think that's a great idea. Like, she would only ever accentuate whatever I was feeling. And so it is so important to surround yourself with those people. And whether it's just like we are now, like us converting now, or friends when it's like you have those positive friends, and I'm not saying like cut out all the negative friends, but you know what you can talk to about them, because there's other things I want to talk about. They might want to talk about family and all this sort of stuff, but then you've got these friends that get pumped and excited about all the same stuff you do. So now that's how I remove blockage, is I honestly focus on making myself happy. And here's the hard thing, is that most people don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Because the easy is like, oh, I'll make myself happy, I'll watch TV. Now, the question is, what are you watching? or on your phone, like, I'll go to my phone. The question is, what are you looking at?
Yeah.
And most of the time, it is pretty stressful, because I love TV, like absolutely. Like I love, there's amazing movies, amazing shows, but now for me, like an incredible comedy, like a nice, like great comedy that I can just laugh, like feel great, is way better than the news.
Yeah.
Or way better than, like a dystopian future, because right now it's all very popular to make shows about dystopian futures, and I'm not knocking them. I love them, like absolutely. But what I know is we are very much affected by what we see, what we hear, and what we feel. So it's great to feel emotions, and that's all really important watching a show, but it's hard to marathon a show that's incredibly depressing and then go to bed and marinate on that all night long, and then wake up and feel like there's no hope for humanity.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's that thing of what our release should be ends up actually making us probably feel a little bit worse. So it's about being aware that it's like, great, watch the news and go, okay, that's, because when we were kids, I'm sure you could relate to this, news used to be 30 minutes. It was like 6 p.m., 30 minutes, and then Seinfeld, and then Simpsons, and then, and then in the morning it might be newspaper, and you'd skim through the things, you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah. And then you wouldn't really talk about it at work. But now it's 24/7.
Yeah.
Everyone has it on their phone. People are setting alarms. Like for the last election, I had friends setting alarms to wake up to, and this was the thing, is like, a friend said, are you watching the election? This was on the first night. And I said, no. I'll just find out the answer. I just want to know the end.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did that, because for 4 days, everyone I knew was stressed out of their mind. Because by the point of voting, there was nothing else that anyone could really do except for argue or stress that it's that close. Like, a footy match or a sport is great because it does bring up emotions, but at the end, it is just a game. But in life, there's too many things that we don't distance ourselves from to go, okay, well, listen, there's only so much I have an effect on the US election or who the president is. And I can only do my bit and just like, okay, it is what it is. And now I'll be happy. So it's, it's all of these things of just trying to make sure that, I mean, I have this saying now that, because it's that idea of like, you're in fitness, that you are what you eat, right? You know that, but it's also that you are what you say. Yeah. You are what you see. And it's this thing of we live on the frequency that we talk about frequently. So if you're talking about hope and happiness and bringing joy to people and about trying to bring change and bring happiness to people's life, that's a beautiful place to be. But too often when we get together with friends, especially actors do this, we get together and commiserate. It's that thing of like, oh, did you see what happened in the thing? And like, oh man, like it's hard and this and that. Like at no point, like even with us trying to get this meeting in, and you've got beautiful kids that are running around like in the other room and trying to fit it all in, but you're not complaining because this is, you're living the dream. Yeah. Like it's this concept of, but there's plenty of people that would just say, man, it's like near impossible to get my podcast. Oh, you know what? I won't even do a podcast. I'll just wait till my kids get older. And like, like it's that thing of like, you will find the energy for the things that you want to achieve. And right now you're doing it all, from fitness to photography, to construction, to pay the bills for the family.
I'll tell you something, that has been the whole campaign in Perfectly Perfect. So before I tell you that part, this is Wayne Dyer fan as well. You need to get that one. Yeah. So that's another subject we'll touch upon. But when it goes to spirituality thing, I totally get what you mean. People can be on the fence, so I never really go into it. But once you do actually go on this self-discovery journey, drop the ego, you actually learn so much about yourself. And that blame game, you internalize it. And when you come up against another obstacle, instead of the blame game, you're kind of like, okay, how am I attracting what I'm attracting at the minute? What do I need to change about myself? But when it comes to the campaign, the Imperfectly Perfect campaign, the whole notion of it, attesting to you there, you used to be a perfectionist, not getting things out. I always say to people, I'm a big Gary Vee fan. So I'm a 1%er who will just do it. So with this podcast, I had no bloody idea how to do one. And everyone's like, how did he get picked up by iHeartRadio after 4 episodes? I was like, I pressed play on GarageBand. I had my laptop. I was like, you know what? I listened to Gary Vee one day and I was like, his audio's not perfect. He speaks what he says. It comes from the heart. He's a multi-millionaire. Take away the monetary value of what he is. People resonate with him because he's real. He's authentic through and through. I mean, that word is so highly saturated these days, authenticity, when people's actions don't meet what the word means. However, you're drawn to him for that. And he just said, just do it. Like, don't run before you can walk. So for me, I'm like, I don't know how to do it. I've got GarageBand. I'll press record. And I listened to his podcast one day and I was like, his audio's not the greatest. And then I realized it's about content. It's about who you're talking to and the reciprocity, like when you really gain just that trust and that mutual understanding that you get each other. And I always say the amount of people who's come on the podcast, and I've done my research, like after we'd spoke initially, and then I did a bit more research on yourself. I must admit, 2005-6, mate, you were in my era of Neighbours, being English.
Thank you.
Sky and Dylan. So, but anyway, I have had so much feedback from people who have come on because I've gone, look, I've done my research, put that to the side. I take my hat off to what you've all been able to achieve. I think it's amazing. However, I like to know the person behind the profession, because what we don't see is that person. We see a highlight reel on socials. And what I try to tell people, and I must admit, I've been on networks, very fortunate, and they've said, tell me about this celebrity. And I'm like, but it's not just celebrities. There's people of influence across corporate. Let's get back to mental health. These are people. We all bleed red.
Yes.
We all go through the same thing. I know for media, it's sensationalized. I get the game. One of the questions I would ask you, how have you navigated your own mental health through that? Because what I've seen through it from an external point of view, and people say, why aren't you pushing yourself a bit more on the campaign? I'm like, no, thanks. I'm like, it's about the message in one respect, but what you guys are able to do, you do need a strong support system around you. There is a lot of no's. If something happens, suddenly people disperse. If you haven't got an agent, you don't get the work, it dries. How have you navigated all that kind of, I mean, you've been fortunate, you've said, but if you've ever seen friends go through it or...
I think I was sort of very, I had it firsthand so often. And I only realized this later on, that because I grew up, I started professionally acting when I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're acting with other 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
And then sort of as you evolve into sort of 17, 18, school's finishing, and I would so often see a lot of people fall out of it, fall out of love. I mean, so especially with, child actors, because maybe their parents got them into it. Sometimes that is the case. But others where I just know that it was a stress, it was a worry, it was money, it was all of these things. And also especially the hard term of celebrity. Like when I, was doing Winners and Losers, or even Neighbours, it was this concept. I actually left Neighbours because I didn't want to become too celebrity. I love doing the show, and I could have stayed. I was only there 2 years, which was short in the scheme of things. But I was just like, I don't want to just only become a celebrity from Neighbours. Like that wasn't what I was after. I wanted to evolve and try and do other things. And I was very lucky because most of my choices that I was doing, even when I left Winners and Losers, or even when I left Elephant Princess, I didn't go back based on, I was like, am I just going back for money? It's like I have I got everything I wanted out of this? And that is the case. And I guess I sort of got nervous with that, and it is kind of hard, especially on a relationship. If you go somewhere and you keep getting stopped and all. Listen, I certainly haven't had the level of, I'm sure, many of the guests that you've had on the show, but seeing these friends that would fall out of what I felt fell out of love, but I know they weren't falling out of love. It's just that they saw no hope. You know, and there is the saying, which is, we don't know enough. Like, no one knows enough to be a pessimist.
Yeah.
Because there is so much in this universe that we do not know to be a pessimist, because anything can happen. And really, I also have the term of, like, you need to escape like jealousy, and I call it jealousy, because it literally will lock you up, keep you stuck. And it was actually also this other thing of the idea of the ego, because Eckhart Tolle talks about the ego, and I sort of compared it, this concept, which I'll take you through now. Sort of maybe actors might be able to relate to this, where if you think of your mind or what you're seeing as like a movie screen, and you're sitting in like a cinema, and you're just watching. So you're actually watching what's going on, because you're the awareness of the thoughts and what's occurring, and you can focus on elements of the screen. Like, if there's something you don't want to see over, you can look over here and see, oh yeah, look at the beautiful birds over here, or look at the lovely couple kissing over there, or you can look at the dark and awful stuff. But then also in the audience, there's a heckler. And the heckler thinks they're helping by shouting out negative stuff. They think the audience find it funny. And especially even like with comedians on stage, like the heckler will only do it because they think they're funnier than the comedian on stage. And that's what the heckler in the audience is doing. And that's our ego in our own mind, shouting out at the screen, like, you can't do that. Good luck with that. Or good luck getting her on a date. Like, not going to happen. Or you'll never star in that thing. Like, your skin's not great enough. Or, your hair frizzes in the rain. Like, that heckler is there. Now, the only thing you can do as an audience is either focus and pay attention and give them center stage so that you're listening and agreeing, or you can just like you're in a movie cinema and someone's talking, you can like, I started to do this back in that stage where I realized, like, what's going on? Like, I'm having these thoughts, and once I realized I wasn't the thoughts, when the thoughts came, I would just go like nurturing, not like shh, because that can make you angrier. It's like, like a library lady, like shh, no talking. It's this concept of just like a nurturing mother, of just going shh. Like if everyone watching a show gently shh the person in the crowd, they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm not really welcome here. And then eventually that heckler won't talk, or if anything, eventually they'll realize they have no worth here and they'll leave the cinema altogether. And so that's really what changed it for me, is that when negative thoughts would fly through my radar, or I would pull them into my thought pattern, I would just try and shush it. And then it would actually kind of, I probably looked funny at the gym while I was doing that, walking around, kind of, walking, people wouldn't know what the hell I was doing. But for me, it actually really helped. So that's a little trick that maybe you can do. And if it's that idea of just knowing that you're not that thought, and people have negative thoughts, but you need to not, like, use the thoughts to your advantage. Don't let the thoughts use you. And too often I feel like people take the thoughts on as their own, especially anybody that's depressed. They would know that, oh, these thoughts, I'm a terrible person. I can't believe I had these thoughts. Like I'm an awful, like, why is my brain doing this? And it's just it's just an addiction. It's just, you start to believe it. You start to believe the heckler, believe the echo, the ego, and you start to doubt everything that you have. And for me, shushing myself, it really helped. So I don't know if that's a trick that anyone listening can use.
Well, that's the whole thing with the campaign. So the main premise was obviously visual medium, so that people could be drawn to it through awareness. Then they actually go to the podcast, they can listen to stories. So when I went through my severe bout of body dysmorphia, it came through social media. I found that I was comparing myself. I saw a psychologist because it nearly broke my marriage up, because I was spending more time in the mirror than my wife. She didn't understand it, because on an external point of view, I was in front of maybe a couple of hundred people teaching group fitness classes. Back home in front of the mirror, I was in such a bad place. I was tearing myself apart. Anyway, got to the point I broke down one day, went to see somebody. Unfortunately, it was in Thailand. They're not really based on aesthetics. It's all about education. So he didn't really understand it. Anyway, finally went to see somebody. And to be honest with you, they were trying to pinpoint it on something from childhood. And I was like, this is not childhood. I was the first person, like, in my 20s all the way through to, like, top off beach, the lot. And I actually worked it out a while after that it came from social media. However, in saying that, I always say with the podcast, listening to your story and listening to what you've been able to do, it gives people hope that if something that you've said doesn't work for them, listen to another podcast that somebody else with something similar has done. So it's a message of hope, basically, because storytelling is the oldest form of communication. And that's what I wanted to bring through. So bring together the people in the arts to showcase this, because I've seen it more often than not. People look at it sometimes and go, but you've got celebrities on. And I'd be like, first of all, if you ask somebody, if I ask you, Damien, what would you do for a profession? You would not say, I'm a celebrity. People don't class that. It's a perception that media put on. And behind that, you've got people in corporate who have got multi-million-dollar companies on there. And I actually learned in my self-development, you can say to them, you go, oh, you must be living the life. And they go, yeah, but people don't realize it comes with a million problems as well. Like, we're all on different levels. And I mentioned it in one of my last podcasts. We've all got playing this perception game and this perpetual thing, thinking everyone's life's better than ours. These people up here sometimes are just looking at us and going, oh, just to go to the grocery store and buy something without being bothered would be amazing. I've got to deal with all this. And then people here are looking up going, oh, they got to red carpet events, they've got all that, but they don't see the behind the scenes. So it's been an amazing journey for me, but I just love listening to people's story. That's the thing with me. It's like you talk about friends when you've got different friends. Like, I can sit there just intently listening to people who have got really in-depth conversation. And I can tell with you that you've gone on a journey and you've just come out the other side. And whether it's intuition, you mentioned it before, you do start picking up on people's energy a lot more and intuitive things. But that's why I say, read that book next, mate, The Power of Awakening.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
Yep.
I will say, based on what you were talking about, the hardest thing, which is comparing, and as you were talking about with body dysmorphia and social media, and that we do all compare.
No.
And for me, it's I almost talk like I compare life to the beautiful, like, you know, place that it is. It has its laws of attraction and all this sort of stuff, magnetism, vibration, all of this kind of stuff. And the way I like to compare this world is like an algorithm. It's all like one algorithm, whether you believe in the, you know, that it's like simulation or whatever. It's this thing of life is like an algorithm in the sense of just like YouTube or Facebook or social media. Now, I'll give you the example. If you go to your homepage on your YouTube like app and look at what it offers you, that is what you are constantly looking at. Now, YouTube doesn't judge you whatsoever for what you watch.
Yeah.
You can watch conspiracy theory stuff. You can watch little puppies with you know, like you know, just playing with some balls of wool. You can watch, you know, hilarious bloopers. You can watch, you know, dangerous people doing things. They don't judge. It will just give you more of what you want. And that's the same with Facebook. It will give you more of the articles that you read. It will give you more of the news that you want to see. It will give you more of the photos that you are looking at. And it's dangerous. And here's the thing. I don't blame any of these, because all, like Facebook, want to do is make a dollar. Don't we all? So all they're doing is just like giving people what they want. And we kind of blame them to say, look at you sending out all these. And it's like, I started to realize by looking at my feed that what was I attracting? More of the same and more negativity. And that's what was happening in my life. The universe is very much the same. And if you show love or look for love or give love to your children, give love to your wife, love to the stranger at the supermarket, then all of a sudden love will come back at you tenfold, because that's what you're giving. If you're giving judgment to the person on the street, or giving judgment to that friend that decided to do that thing, like, then you are bringing judgment to you, or more negative, or people judging you. So it's this thing of be very, very careful. And I honestly, like, and with social media, it is that thing that I get it. It's a highlight reel is really what social media is. It's a highlight reel. It's like best of bits. Yeah. This is best of Damo. This is Damo at his best. You know, it's this concept that isn't real because you weren't at the beach when I took the photo. You didn't know how cold it was. You didn't know how windy it was and how much sand got it. You didn't know how sunburnt I got the next day. You just see me like tanned and sitting on the beach, you know, looking amazing. Yeah. And you're like, well, you didn't see the fight that I had with the partner to take the photo because I just, you know, I wanted the perfect photo and it was overexposed and we didn't know, and the camera, all of these things, right? Or that we couldn't even swim because we took a big expensive camera to the beach, right? It's like, you don't see all of this stuff. So you need to take it with a grain of salt. And the hardest thing I know is especially, say, I even just sort of would say it for girls in particular, is that, you know, social media, there's plenty of women in bikinis.
Yeah.
Right. Or that's what magazines were. Like, of course, like, you know, like magazines that you buy just at the thing. It's like, oh, beautiful women in this. And it's such a body shaming thing. I mean, it was hard at work, I'm sure, for you looking in the mirror every day. It is your profession. But of course, when you see on social media to people that really, when you can eventually change it from comparing yourself to being inspired by.
Yeah.
And it's that, you know, it's that thing of a lot of people look at rich people and say, oh, like they have it easy, because it's like, you should be inspired by, like, they probably started at the same point. Some people, of course, have it easy from early, but you don't know the problems that they're having and the problem they're having with their kids because their kids have had everything and they're all brats and all that sort of stuff. But it's that concept of social media by sometimes, and I had to do this. I went through my social media and I get it. You don't have to unfollow, but just mute.
Yeah.
If you see a photo that hits you, and it might not even be bad. Honestly, it could just be a person booking a job. And you're like, they book all the jobs. That's unfair. You know, when you're like, wait a second, what am I doing? Why did I feel that? Maybe I should mute them for 30 days and work on myself so that I can look at their thing, like their stuff, and not judge them. Because really, I'm only judging myself for not being at where they are. You know, so it's that hard thing of, like, with social media, is just check on who you're following, what you're looking at. Because the thing that blows my mind about Trump, whatever you feel about him, people follow him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Right? So people that don't like him follow him. Wouldn't it just be easy not to follow him and then just, you know, you're not bombarded with his tweets? But it's just that thing of, like, people love the talking point but it's people want to look at the problem. I almost kind of compare it to the movie Candyman. I know people might not remember that. I think it was in the 90s, this movie. And it's this concept that there's this villain, this horrible, terrible villain. And to bring him to like kill you, all you have to do is say in the mirror, Candyman 5 times. And the whole premise of the movie, you're like, well, just don't say it. Just don't say Candyman. You know what I mean? But it's this thing of they want to say it. It's the same as Beetlejuice. Like, if you don't say Beetlejuice 3 times, Beetlejuice doesn't show up. Right? So it's kind of this thing of, like, we love to, like, throw wood at the fire. Yeah. We see, like, something we don't like and we love to fuel it more. And so, especially with politics, you know, I remember getting in trouble once because there was a topic my friends were talking about. This wasn't even that political, but it was just something that had happened in the news. And I was kind of like the two, it was a couple and they were both fighting over it. And they were like, I need your opinion. Or, like, really, they were basically saying, I need you to side with me so they're wrong. Right? And I was like, oh, listen, you know, I see that side and I see this side. And they're like, don't sit on the fence. Like, don't be a fence sitter. And it was this weird thing that clicked into my brain that I was like, wow, like, in this world right now, it is negative to be on the fence. When really, with anything, we know this from, like, whether it's a marriage, we know it in business, we know it dealing with customer service, everything is compromise, right? So it's this concept of everybody wants to be like, I am right, but you are wrong and you will always be wrong. And I'm not talking to you about what you need, like, help with. Because like, why, you know, it's like we need to mend the sides because it is all, nothing's black and white. It's all gray. It's all gray area in the middle. And we need to, it's like, you know, I'm not trying to get political here, but I just mean in life in general, like with friends. And I compare this to next time you're with your friends, have a look at where the conversation goes. And how's it making you feeling? And is it complaining and all gossiping about something? Just look out for that. Like, and if that is what's happening, and if you're not feeling good, but people love drama. It's the same reason people watch Neighbours, right? They love drama. There's no one happily ever after. Yeah. Like Susan and Carl have to break up, then get back together, then break up again, and then have drama. Like there has to be people dying. There has to be drama because we love drama. But in real life, people kind of get addicted to drama in their own life.
Yeah.
And so it's this thing of when you're with your friends, and what I notice people don't ever do is talk about people's dreams. You know what I mean? Like we might at New Year's Eve where it's like, so what are your resolutions? And people are like, I don't know, I should slow down on drinking, maybe, I don't know. And it's like maybe a half thing. Yeah. But I've always taken New Year's resolutions like pretty seriously, but never also just been like, oh, well, you know, if it doesn't work, you can start it at any time. It's just, that's a reminder period. But I've, you know, like I quit fast food for a whole year because I was like, New Year's resolution. I quit swearing, you know, I quit a bunch of things that kind of actually ended up making me feel good. And it's that concept of when you're with your friends, just every now and then, like throw out the question, like, yeah, but what would be your dream job? Like, what would be your dream, like vacation? Like, how about talking to people about their dreams? Because to be honest, those dreams are as real as what they think negatively about someone in the news that's happening right now, right? That you don't even know. You don't even know what's going on in their world. And like, I've spent enough time in LA to know that no matter if you're looking for an agent or you've got a pilot or you've done one season or you've got the movie, all you're worried about is, oh, will the agent keep me on and will I get auditions? B, will the pilot get picked up to a series? B, will this series 1 go to a second series? Or will this movie make money? Right? And if it's not those things, then you're heavily depressed when everyone would look at these people and be like, oh, you're kicking goals, living the dream and super, super happy. It's like everyone's waiting for some end point. But the dangerous thing is the end point is death. Yeah. Right? So it's like, so what's this end point? There is no one movie. It's like, why do like actors, you know, same thing as like movies are all going in a certain way. It's like they're all coming a little bit more Marvel or Star Wars and like other actors are going into sort of more lower budget things or doing TV and people are like, oh, like, why are they doing that? They want to work. Yeah. They love working and people will judge them by, oh, like, I wonder why they went and did that thing. And you're like, well, they want to be on set. You know, they want to make people smile. Like, you know, it's this whole thing that it's like when, you know, like I love Jim Carrey. And when I heard he was in Sonic, I was like, well, that's a weird move. Like that's a strange one. He's Jim Carrey. But then I saw it and I was like, he had the time of his life on that set. Right. And then he was the best thing in the movie for me. But it's just that concept of you're like, well, he's getting to play. He's getting to do what he wants to do. You know, so it's hard. And really, I implore people listening or watching to please quit judging or blaming people, because all you're actually doing is blaming and judging yourself. It is an inner reflection. And that's why for me, sometimes, you know, like I don't get road rage anymore because I know when someone's upset and I see them, I only have the experience with them for like 10 seconds or less. And I'm just like, wow, like they're living with themselves. And if I only experience 10 seconds of their life and they have 24/7 with themselves and they're upset over nothing, I hope they're okay. Yeah. Like, I hope they're okay. And honestly, that's my prayer now when I like look at people and even I also talk about like actors need to not like rat out movies at all either. Because for one, firstly, ask yourself the question, would you love the movie if you were in it? Yes, you would, right? So it's that thing of like, oh man, did you see the latest sequel to that? Oh, what a letdown. That was awful. I'm so terrible. And you're like, well, if you were cast in that, what would you think about that movie? Well, nah, I wouldn't do it. It's like, yes, you would. Are you kidding me? Of course. And you'd be the first, you know, and you'd hope that people around you would support you too. So it's this like, watch what you're saying, watch what you're looking at, watch what you're scrolling. Like, you know, we live on the frequency that we talk about frequently. So just try and you got to feel those good vibes as much as you can.
Well, I absolutely love that. I think that's beautiful sentiment, what you said there about when you're with a group of friends. So anyone that's listening, actually take that and try it out, because I'm going to do that as well. when I catch up with friends, I'm going to try, because I'd not even thought of that. We don't tend to gossip, but I was, when you were talking, thinking about our conversations and about people's work, and not gossiping, but probably more complaining about work, their situations, and then just to talk about aspirations. And sometimes I have even not dumbed down, but kind of gone, because I get excited about what I'm doing, but people don't see the hard work behind the scenes, how many hours I'm doing and what I'm doing, but I'm still so passionate about it. And then sometimes it's kind of like, hey, Glenn, settle down, because you're way overexcited compared to where they are talking about their careers, but you shouldn't be dimmed down. Bring everyone up at the same time. So yeah.
Bring everyone up. It's this concept of like tall poppy syndrome, right? And this idea of like, oh, if I grow too large, then everyone, but it's like, well, just like, you know, let everyone feed on the beautiful rays of sunshine and grow together, right? It's so, it really is remarkable. And you will see friends like, and this is the thing, is I've lived in LA long enough to have been with very, very successful people in a room with everybody. And most of them like related, and they're all very successful. And everyone's talking about anything but their success. Now, I'm not saying that that's, you know, like good because they're not bragging, but I'm just saying that no one would celebrate. Like, I feel like I'd go and see people and I'm like, it's weird that we're not talking about your amazing news in this thing, you know, because what, you're worried that they like don't want to talk about it, or they might, and I'm like, I just want to hear about it. I just want you to tell me about it. I just want to know what it's like. Like, this is the biggest like break of your career, and we should be toasting. We should be like asking, like, but people just don't even share within their own family of that kind of thing. And it is really, really strange to sort of see that. But it is also very key, because you don't want to alienate your friends too, because enthusiasm, and this is also what I found. And it's so funny. I went back to Neighbours for the 35th anniversary, and I was at the wrap party for that Christmas, and an actor that I've known for a very long time, we've never actually worked together, but an actor I've known for a very long time, you know, came up to me and said, like, you know what, like, for 10 years, I didn't like you. I just didn't get you. I was like, what's his deal? Like, what is with Damo, right? And then he was like, and then, like, I just realized that, like, you're just the nicest guy that I've ever met. And I just didn't know how to cope with that. Right. And so, and it was remarkable to hear this, because then also for the same reason, the old me would have said, oh, wow, okay, I should dull down my energy. I should dull down my light. And I think when I was getting in my darker stage, I was, because I was like, well, listen, you know, I'm going apart, like, I'm not succeeding, so I don't want to stand out. Because what if they ask me questions like, how's your career going? Or what are you doing? Right. But it's that thing of like, it's this concept of you cannot like dull your light. You need to bring other people up. And when people just want to talk about something that we know is like, you know, a hot topic that everyone wants to talk about, just try and go, oh yeah, I know. Yeah. But, oh man, like, you know, where are you going? What are you doing this Christmas? We've, you know, it's like, hopefully, you know, all that sort of stuff, like try and change it to those beautiful things, because as I'm sure you know as well, it's even with parenting, or even with childbirth, we sort of learned this because we did all the classes. And the one thing that at these classes that we did were telling us, we'll ignore all negativity about childbirth, because what the movies show is just like pain and like, oh, awful. And like, we hear the horror stories, right? And even, you know, even parenting, you know, for people that don't have kids yet, it's like, oh man, like hard is, but it's like, dude, you wouldn't change it for the world, right?
Well,
no, because they're the greatest. But the thing is like, I know, like, of course, right now, I'm going to enjoy every second of my life pre-birth, because it's like, oh yes, this is the, you know, last couple of seconds of that I know of Damo now. And then I'm going to love every second, because this child is going to be my good luck charm. And you have like beautiful beaming lights that in every day bring you into your happiness, because to be honest, dude, that's who you're doing it for. You know what I mean? Like you're leading by example. You want your kids, you don't want anything to happen to them. You want them to be the light to their friends. And I heard this quote as well. I forget who said it, where it's this concept of, if you make sure that everyone around you has everything that they want, you will definitely get what you want, because everyone will want you to have it. I have this friend who is like one of my best friends, and no matter what I do, like to try and help or whatever, she pays me back too much. Like, I'm like, this is tenfold. Like, how I can't possibly, but it's this thing of, she doesn't care because she feels like she owes me, but I feel like I owe her because we're just such good friends that we would do anything for each other's success, because her success is my success is her success. And so you need those people around you. So it's that thing of like, you know, your wife and your kids, and trying to deal with the issues that you had, of course, because it's like the hardest thing is, like, especially in a marriage, is it's all compromise. And I was, as an actor, incredibly selfish for a very long time. I was very in my own world of like, I'm trying to do this and like, I can't, you know, but until I just got out of my own way and realized that I'm actually pushing the person that I love away. And now and we joke that it's kind of like, I love her more than when we got married. Yeah. Right? Which seems weird, but it's like that thing of, you'd be this, where it's that concept of like, I'm progressively loving her more, the more I know about it, the more that we're evolving and the more that things are changing. And once we're getting on this positive stage, like we're learning together, and we're all just humans. We're all learning. And the compare aspect, to bring that up again, it's like no two snowflakes are the same. No fingerprints are the same. Now, if not one finger on the planet of 7 billion people is the same, that means that the trillions of cells in you, there is no chance that you, Glenn, are the same as me or is the same as anyone on this planet. You are unique. So it's like we just have to try and spread it, share it. And this is why, as soon as you asked for me to be on the podcast, I was like, well, I certainly love to be a part of it. I love your message, but it's an honor, because what I've experienced, I wouldn't have talked about this. Yes, I would with close friends. Yeah. And, I even had a friend recently because I did some lives on even just, Instagram and Facebook, and literally even before a Facebook one, I was literally like shaking like this. And I told my wife, I was like, this is why I have to do it, because I know that something good is going to happen on the other side of this fear. And when I did live, and it just felt so good, and I got a great response, my friend said to me, well, that's because you gave them full demo, which is kind of true. Is like, as actors, we hold back. It's funny that in acting, we want to show all our emotions, but in life we don't. Yeah. It's kind of this facade. And also the hardest thing with actors as well is that we are great actors. But honestly, all humans are, is that humans will show what they want to show. Humans will reveal what they want to reveal, but also show interest. And everyone's worried about themselves. We are, and I'm not saying that that's bad. Of course, focus on yourself and all that sort of stuff. But no, that's why you don't have to be insecure, because they're worrying about the same thing. That person that you liked the photo of is probably more insecure than you would ever know. Mm. And so it's kind of like, it's this term that is really hard to kind of change your prospect of. And this is when I was in my dark point. And actually, I remember this happened to a friend recently, and his partner had sort of said it to me, where his agent had dropped him. And I got excited because I was like, great, now you can meet the agent of your dreams. Now you're going to meet the agent that's going to take you to the next level, right? And it did. It's exactly what happened, because it was funny. He was already being successful. He was always really successful. And then all of a sudden, his agent dropped him. It made no sense to me, right? But I got excited about it because I knew that he needed that to see the optimism of it. But then his partner said, well, he has to be realistic. Now, what blew my mind when I heard that was the word realistic. Now, why has that got a negative connotation to it, right? Why is realistic, and it's this concept of, if anybody was realistic, do you think we would have phones that could talk to each other? Yeah. Do you think that, like cars would exist, or planes, or spaceships, or, satellites, or any of these things? Like, do you think anything would exist? Your favorite movie, or your favorite camera, or your favorite anything, your favorite food, like, do you think it would exist if there wasn't imagination somewhere? And do you think they were realistic when the first ever thing to creep out of the ocean and say, I want to walk on hind legs, and I want to evolve to fly, and I want to evolve? Do you think that they were realistic? Of course they were, but they were positively realistic. They were like, I've seen it. And it's that incredible saying, which is just that most people think that they need to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
But really, you have to believe it to see it. And like, that's how I'm trying to live my life now. And that recently for me, I got in an amazing place, you know, doing lives and feeling good. And then this opportunity came out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden I'm on a movie set with an A-list star, right? And out of nowhere, the old me would have like said, that's not realistic. That's not possible. That can't happen because of like, how would it happen? How would you, you know, but I just started to believe so much so that, of course, when I got the call, I was incredibly emotional and super proud that it had happened. But at the same time, it didn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing we have to do in life. It's sort of this thing, Glenn, that I'm sure that when you reach out to people and they so like instantly are on board with what you're doing, it probably doesn't surprise you when they get back to you and they're super keen to be part of it. You know, otherwise you wouldn't have reached out. It's just like you're trusting this instinct, or you're going down this avenue now, and it's also this amazing thing of being able to talk about, because it's like, of course, we all need to pay the bills. Yeah. So you've done a beautiful thing to say, you know what, I need to support my family. Yes, I love photography. I love the, you know, like, I can't believe I lost this friend, but I'm going to go into construction because this is what I know will always be going. Yeah. And I can earn money out of this. But of course, your passion will take you other ways until, of course, money is flowing in. But you need to do it for free, for the love of it, before the money takes over, you know. And then all of a sudden, like,
because it's just everything that's just everything you're saying is just like, yep. Because I understand, when you understand it, keep going, loving it.
And it's the hard thing, because for an actor in particular, and I'll talk about this briefly, is the aspect of like, especially with that term realistic, of parents might be like, well, what's your backup? You know what I mean? What's your plan B? And Arnold Schwarzenegger says, you know, there's no plan B. Yeah. There's only plans for A. And it's whatever it takes to get you to A. So as an actor, if you have to do that other job, that's fine. That's great. Do the job, earn the money, but don't say, well, this is me forever. Like, I'm going to be like frothing milk and to pour coffees for rich people forever, or I'm going to be serving beers, or I'm going to be doing whatever the job is, or I'm going to be in this office forever. Know that you are doing it to fuel that course that you want to do, to fuel the headshots that you need to get. And you need to get them, but you've got that friend that you're doing them for free and whatever, or you need to pay those those, you know, like show cast fees or all of those things to get onto casting. You're doing it to fuel that dream. You know, so it takes, you know, it's all of these things that you have to do what you got to do, but it's for the love of it. So you got to love what you do every day. And remember, like, as an actor, especially as a performer, and especially for you, when you're on the site, you're not just working hourly as you know, as a laborer. You're there to bring joy to people. Right? I have no doubt that when you're there, you're lightning. I mean, I know that in construction, you know, I have mates that are in it, and they're all so funny. Usually everyone's kind of funny, and like, I mean, I'm addicted to on Facebook, on the tools. It's like a Facebook, and basically all it is like people like showing like shoddy jobs that they've done on a work site, right? Of doors that like slam into the toilet, don't quite open in the bathroom, and they're all like, not my job, you know. And I just like, it's so funny, right? But it's like, as performers, as actors, I realized that why was I acting? Sure, I love doing it and it's all great, but why? Well, because maybe I like making people feel good. We like people escaping through TV or through musicals or through plays. We like, you know, but at the same time, you don't have to be paid millions of dollars to make people feel good. You can do that every day with the person, with your partner. You can do that with your friends. You can do that with your parents. Sometimes people just need an ear. You can do all of these things and do whatever they need. And that's what I realized, that I acted to bring joy to people. But at the same time, I was like, well, I can do that so many other ways. And if that's like going live on Instagram and just talking openly about all of this, or, you know, jumping on the podcast or talking about my imperfections or my problems in the past that kind of helped me get out of that, then if I can do that to hopefully give people hope and make them feel as good as I feel now, then that's what it's for. You know, you're doing this, you're bringing this torch and trying to pass it on to as many people as possible. And you're doing that for your children. You're doing it on the job site, and you're doing this now with this campaign.
Well, I think, I don't know why, but I just think that this is going to lead to something in terms of you using your platform for a lot more speaking, mate. Acting is going to be something that just comes naturally, but speaking, I'm not spiritual, I'm no guru, but I've got something that's just telling me that something here is just going to motivational speaking kind of that platform.
Thank you. And can I say, and it's so funny that so often, and as I said before, you hide this, right? You often hide, like you know, it's funny, I'm an actor, so it's scripts. You're always a character. You're always in someone else's costume. You're always in someone else's like movie or film or TV show. So you're dressing up and you're doing these things. And then of course your social media, no one, like, I don't think most actors want to do social media. They do it because and it's a chore, right? But only because they're trying to feel like fake it till they make it, which I do think works to a degree, but it shouldn't make you unhappy.
Yeah.
Like I like the idea of fake it till you make it because it means you're believing it, you know, and that'll help you achieve it, but not if it makes you doubt yourself and you go, oh man, I'm such a faker. I didn't get many likes on that thing. And I actually kind of like that Instagram took away the number of likes. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I think they was doing that because of the whole notion of mental health coming into play a lot, because people really did start, and it just got to the point where I don't know, but one because I haven't seen it for a long time, but I forgot his name, but there's an actor off Home and Away, and I just happened to stumble on an interviewer was saying he was a new actor. This is pretty much why I don't know it. He's a Kiwi, the first Kiwi family in there. And he had an interview, and I found it so profound because he said what it took for him to realize that you're on such an enormity of a show like Neighbours or Home and Away, you get all this adoration from people coming. But when you actually internalize it, they're not coming to see you, they're coming to see a character. And that is really hard to disassociate yourself. And when you put yourself, oh, I'm not actually this character. So do they like the real me? Do they like, and for you to, like, when you go like this, to go on IG Live and resonate, I can presume quite a lot of people, and even to me, to then take that opportunity to reach out to you, the amount of people that have then come on this campaign or just shown vulnerability as a sign of strength and said who they are, the amount of people that it makes a difference for. Marnie Kennedy, one of the first ones to come on the campaign, incredible actress, beautiful person. And she said the first time that her image for the campaign came out and she shared a story, she was like, she had people from primary school reach out to her that had followed her career. She had people just reach out to her and just say, wow, we would have never known. And now she talks to them and she's like, the difference it makes, because we all go around, like you say, we internalize things, we don't share things. We think that vulnerability, because of external factors that we've learned and we've suppressed from other people, we take it on and we think it's a sign of weakness, especially guys. Oh, it's not masculine to share it. However, you see some of the most successful people in the world who very openly just share their vulnerability. It doesn't stop them doing what they want to achieve. It doesn't. And yeah, for some reason, there's just something with you, mate, through this chart. I'm just like, yeah, he's going to use this as I think that was just your test. There's been something come up with your personal development, mate. And you went like that, and now it's like that. And you're just going to go on this.
Well, I mean, it's a remarkable thing that the one thing that I thought would actually hinder, or going down a different path would hinder my career, actually then I booked. And that's what I couldn't believe. It was like, it was once again, and it's that idea of being vulnerable, and especially because also other people are like, oh, wow, especially that concept of, oh, they're so perfect. They're in the limelight, they're successful, they're rich, and all of these things. And people can resonate more with someone that isn't perfect, because no one is. Yeah. What is perfect? It actually doesn't exist. And that's the biggest scary danger of this idea of like, well, you can take, like, it's like a puzzle piece. Life is a puzzle and you can take little pieces, but it's like you'll make things try and fit and they don't quite for you. Like everybody's physical being is a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's skin tone is a little bit different. Everyone's hair is a little bit different. And like I know this, and I've been on enough sets to know this, or like almost no one likes their hair. Almost everyone's like, oh, my hair's too thick. Oh, my hair's too curly. My hair's not light enough. Or my hair's, you know, like it's not good in like wet weather. Or, you know, like everybody would always rather someone else's hair, which is kind of funny because you're born with your hair.
Yeah.
And it's only just this idea of the grass is always greener. And when I was in America and coming back and forth from Australia, I lived in this mind frame for way too long, which was this, the grass is always greener. And when you watch people or you see successful people, or it's like, oh, it's so green over there. I'd rather be over there. Like, and then you're there and you're like, oh, well, it's green. I greener back over there. Or you keep moving around until I heard someone, I forget who it was, say the grass is green wherever you water it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of most important thing, is that, you know, people can be looking at other people at, oh, well, I want what they have, when it's like to be careful what you wish for, because you might get it and realize like, oh man, it's a whole lot more stress than what I actually thought. Like, I wanted to be a millionaire, but as you know, like running a business is hard. And now I lose my weekends, and now I don't see my kids, and I don't, it's all of these things. You have to be so careful what you wish for, because I believe that anything you dream up can come true. And I believe that, like the world is your oyster. And of course we all start at a different place.
Yep. But
the best thing is we all want something different. Like not one person wants the same thing. And what I find funny with actors is that this concept of the Oscars or awards, it's like we want them because other people want them. Mm-hmm. It's kind of that aspect of like, oh, the Oscar is like this big, and I even feel it for Oscar winners. And I kind of notice that it's great because, they win an Oscar, amazing, and their quote goes up. And then they often, I notice, work a little less because now they're more expensive. And now the expectation on their shoulders that every movie they make has to be the best box office smash. And it's so hard. Like you sort of go, okay, well, where's the end goal? Like even winning an Oscar isn't that. And so it's chasing it for the wrong reasons. It's like, of course, a lot of people can use success and fame and hopefully to give back. And that's kind of like, now it's so funny. Like I didn't even think that I had a story, and we all have a story, but just like, when we're at school, there's like the real cool kids that everyone wants to be like them. And who are those kids? We don't even really, it's like, all it is they're just confident. Yeah. Usually in themselves, or they seem confident. And that's why we like them, is because they're, and really, I think that's with fame and with all of these things, and showing vulnerability is to sort of say, oh yes, it is hard to be confident. Even football players going up against other football players, like they're all got to be like, it's like the most confident person is like the one that's going to like, I'm going to jump and I'm going to kick the most goals and I'm going to, all this sort of stuff. You can't have self-doubt. Yeah. So we really, confidence and just, talk yourself up. And here's the funny thing. I'm not sure if you find this too, Glenn, is like what you feed your brain. Like this last hour talking to you has brought my vibration up so damn high that I know that good things are coming to me because you've distracted me. And that's what it's about. It's like just self. Oh, hang on. I think I just lost audio. Just give me 1 second. Hold on. Have you got me back?
Yep, we got you back.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. My headphones always die. And here's the thing. We were going to go for 35 minutes or something. My headphones were sure thing to last that. But that's my bad because I ramble.
Yeah, we're having part 1 to part 2.
Yes. But I guess well, I forget what I lost my track of thought of what I was talking about.
The mind.
Oh yes, the mind. And really, here's the thing is what's interesting with a sports team is that they always have a coach. Always. And why? The coach isn't playing for them. The coach isn't, but the coach is there to give guidance and to give, words of like like belief and confirmation that, you know, and to recharge them and to get them pumped and to believe in them no matter what. Of course, sometimes coaches can get angry and that kind of thing, but it's that thing of like, we are our own inner coach. And it's crucial that, you know, you don't have to hide your beautiful cat. I love it. Love the cat wants to be a part of the podcast. But it's this thing of we need to coach ourselves. And for any actors out there or anyone that's just, you know, struggling. And the hard thing is often in the mirror, we don't like what we see, right? But what I really need, and the change for me is what you got to do is you got to look at yourself and compliment yourself. You got to thank yourself for some of those features that you have. You got to thank yourself for some of those imperfections that make you incredibly unique.
Yeah.
And that is a form of coaching and just trying to ramp up your own belief in yourself, because we often don't get it from other places. And then eventually it's that concept of like, you'll meet a mentor or you'll meet a friend that will do the same thing. And this friend I talked about before that we always are trying to one up each other and trying to help each other. It's like, she will call me and slap me around if she thinks that I haven't done something that I needed to do, you know, and you need those friends, like a good coach, like a mastermind alliance, as Napoleon Hill talks about. It's like, find those people like around you that will, you know, like hold you to your word, to say, hey, how's that book coming? Like, oh, hey, how's that script finishing up? Or, hey, where's that live that you promised? And the remarkable thing was that when I went live, what I was more excited about was the people that reached out to me, actually people that I knew. You know, it was partners of friends, or even like my stepsister reached out. And it's all of these things. And I could actually talk to them on a different level than I've ever talked to them ever. Because when I see them somewhere, it's like very, you know, like, you know, niceties. But for the first time ever, you could talk about something that maybe that they were struggling with. And if you are open, then people around you might reach out and go, wow, it's so funny. Like, I can relate in so many ways. And I struggle with social media, or I struggle with YouTube, or I, you know, this or that. And it's just like, you need to be your own champion and be your friend's champion too. It's like, you got to look at the people.
Right.
Sorry?
Just with your friends, I was just going to say, I think it's the first time that you see each other as people, other than just Damien, my cousin, or Damien, the husband. You see them for who they are by going, oh shit, he deals with that. I mean, I've had one of my cousins that when I was younger, I always wanted a brother. I'd got an older sister, and I just wanted the older brother because I've got an older cousin, and he was always going out with his mates in his car, and I was like, oh, I wish I had a brother, like, so cool. And so I always held him on this pedestal. And through this campaign, he actually reached out to me, and he was like, mate, I'm so proud of you. And I was like, why? He was like, because I've suffered with anxiety for years and never spoke about it. And I'm like, even my mum, she reached out to me. She was like, oh, I'd been seeing someone a while, because her and my dad split up after years together. I was like, why didn't you say something? It's this old mentality as well. We just need to change that narrative that it's kind of, I always say, how would you champion your brother, your sister, your mother, your father if they were dealing with it? So yes, as humans, like you mentioned earlier, we judge things, whether it's based on the premise of good or bad, like it's a human condition. However, let's be more mindful. Everyone's got a story. They react without internalizing things. It's just what we know. And we base that judgment off perceptions. But yeah, I think it's just being mindful. And when, like you said, when people reached out to you, like your fiance's, your wife's next of kin, or all these kind of people, they saw you probably for the first time and were like, wow.
And it's exactly as you talked about, that you said that, you know, we are all people, and especially, and it's so hard with parents, because parents in your entire life, their whole goal is to be the strongest people you know, right? Because they are raising you. They like you're supposed to need them, not the other way around, right? And so for me, and I did my first Instagram live, and my dad doesn't know how to work social media, but his partner showed him. but I did it, and I ran to, I think I chatted for like 35 minutes, and I was talking about like water molecules and how they're affected by vibration and positive words and phrases and all this sort of stuff. And I you know, it's all of this hippie spiritual stuff. And the next time I spoke to my dad, he was like, you have no idea how similar we are.
Wow.
And it just blew my mind. He was like, I watched it and I just couldn't believe how much like it resonated with what we're talking about. And I mean, I talked about stuff like through that, which was this idea of like, you need to talk about what you want, not what you don't want, which a lot of humans do. And for me, my whole life, especially when I was in my darkest point, or even every relationship I've been with, my parents got divorced when I was very young. So I experienced that. So my whole life I was like, I don't want to get divorced. I don't want to get divorced. And what's the best way to not get divorced? Well, pretty much not get married, not get into a serious relationship, right? Push people away, like fear even making the commitment. So in my dark state, until I started to like go, wow, I need to change my wording on how I work, until I said, well, I want a long and happy marriage. Like I want a long and happy marriage. And I wasn't even thinking about what that was or who that was. And then I was like, wow, all of a sudden I saw my partner of like 6 years in a completely different light because I was out of my own way. And I took it all down, this idea of like not putting limitations on where our relationship could be because of how I was phrasing it. And all of a sudden then I wanted to, like, we got engaged and then we're married and then, you know, baby's on the way and like, it's getting better and better and better, all because I changed my mental perception. But that was something from childhood. And so to hear my dad say, and I was talking about this kind of stuff, like in this Instagram live, and then to hear my dad say we have so much in common. And I was like, wow, I talked about divorce and I talked about worry and stress. And you go, we all have it.
Yeah.
And it's that hard thing of we need to be there for the people we love most, because they are going to put on the biggest show for us. And they have most of their life. They're going to reveal what they want to reveal and do what they want to do, you know, like for you, you know, as their son or as their, you know, and you're going through that now as a parent. Like I know I'm going to play a whole other role. And in life, especially Eckhart Tolle talks about this too, that in life, we're all playing roles. And it's when you go to the supermarket, it's either one person's playing the server and one's playing the customer. And it's this, which is this weird thing of like, oh, you're here to serve me. And it's this hard thing of like, the customer is always right, which, you know, it is because they just want your money, but it really isn't correct whatsoever. You know, but people put themselves on a hard, like, how dare you? I paid money for this movie and, you know, like there's popcorn on my, it's so like that, you know, people will complain wherever they can. And because they'll be like, well, I've paid my money and you are below me. And, you know, and it's this, we all play roles, and whether it's a parent, whether it's a friend, whether it's this thing, it's like, be aware of the role you're playing in certain circumstances and situations. And I also like the term that Tony Robbins said. I know I'm giving out a lot of quotes here, but it's just this concept of like, I used to always think like, you know, treat people how you want to be treated. Like, that's a nice way to live, right? Like, treat people how you want to be treated. And then it's like, no, treat people how they want to be treated. You know what I mean? Like, it's this idea of also with affection, like everybody has a different level of affection, especially partners, especially kids, especially friends, especially like, it's this idea of like, you give them the affection that they actually want, right? And then they'll give you the affection back. You can't just be like, well, I want this affection, so I'll give you that. Because they might be like, oh, so that's why with me, like, I know that I need to be a chameleon, that with some people, they can't handle my energy. Yeah. So I know what I'll want to talk about with them, and I won't go full blown, you know, like, oh, let's get you off that, you know, thing. And let's talk about this. It'll be like, oh, okay. You know, like I of course, like I can be there to listen just as much as I can be there to try and recharge them. And, it is that thing of like, with the roles that we all play, especially as a parent, I'm about to be a parent, and we just need to check on, you know, there's also the thing that people say is like, check on your strong friend. You know what I mean? Because people don't. And the strong friend can be you. Sometimes you're the strong friend in all of this, and you have no idea until something happens and you're just like, man, I had no idea. Yeah. You know, and it's devastating when it's too late. Yep. And just like, you know, losing your friend, but as I know, and I completely believe it, is that if the world or the universe is all energy, and the energy all exists, and it's this concept of like, you know, when 70% water, 75% water or something, the earth is 75% water, and a jellyfish is 99.9% water, then that means it took only 0.1% for water to be alive, right? And so things want to live and energy exists, and we don't even see it, we don't even feel it. But I have no doubt that your friend is here on this journey with you, right? He is here, a part of some of this intuition and some of these, like, this guidance. And what's beautiful, and people underestimate, and people get definitely emotional with memories, but memories are just the beautiful moments that we have. And to be honest, they live forever in them. I heard a Macklemore song, and he said, you die twice. You die once when you physically die, and the last time somebody mentions your name, and that, when I heard that, I was like, wow, that's so kind of true. Yeah. So it's like, anytime I'm around, or like I'm driving, like, well, Nana, I hope you're with me now. You know what I mean? Like, or Pa, or people that aren't in my life anymore, that I mention them, and I kind of can feel them, and I reminisce on those times, and I thank them for guiding me, because they're all a part of the bigger energy bubble and in the energy field. And we're just going to, it's like, we need to not worry as much, because life is short, but it is beautiful. And it is hard, because the news will only show what will get ratings, and what gets ratings is darkness and negativity and things that people go, I have to tune in for this. It's like that, those kind of like a current affair shows, or those things which is like escalators. What you don't know might kill you, right? So you're like, oh my gosh, I got to watch this because I don't want to die from an escalator, right? But it's this kind of, but they just need to sell advertising space to keep the network alive, and they employ a lot of people. So that's completely fine. Like, let's not judge those, but it's just that concept of just, being kind to yourself. Don't like, be aware of how you're feeling. Like try and be on a scale, like try and know, like, on a scale, I'm feeling 4. And it's like, well, what would take me to 6 today? Like, you don't have to be 10 every day. It's like, just going for a walk.
Feel the emotions as well. Like,
feel the emotions.
Nobody's saying here, forget what you're going through, but there's being empathetic, having compassion for people. And I'll tell you something quickly that I really learned, and it was from kind of a mentor of mine. And I always said to people, you can have mentors from all walks of life. When you're young and you think, I need a business mentor, I need this person to get me to A to B to C. You actually can learn from your friends. Like today, what we've spoke about, the amount of wisdom that you can impart on each other and you learn, that's a mentorship. That's, you are taking things. But one thing that stood out for me once about being empathetic was, I resonate and I connect, and I fully believe what you were saying there, which you're probably a bit more intuitive than you probably know about knowing. I had a reading and that, and my mate had come through and all this kind of stuff. I'll tell you another time. But the thing he was saying about being empathetic is like, there's 3 different types of listeners. So say, for example, we was doing this show, you've got, or acting, whatever. You've got the people who just pretty much don't listen to a word you're saying. Then you've got the people who try their best to listen, but they're too in their own ego to think, what am I going to say next? So they're not listening. Then you've got the third person who's intently like hanging off every word you're saying, and the conversation just flows so naturally. That's when you know you're onto a winner. But that is the sort of empathetic side that you need when you're speaking to people who are going through struggles as well. Listen. Don't try and fix, because as humans, we try and fix problems. And that's not a bad thing. We just want to help, but just listen. So be that person who listens intently. But I do have a question for you, mate. Most important one. What does being imperfectly perfect mean to you?
It has meant a lot of things, especially over the last couple of months, because I think that's the evolution that I found most recently. And it is the concept of, which is why the beautiful phrasing of imperfectly perfect is the concept that you are perfect. And I mean, the hard term of like the word perfect is like, so we put so much weight on words, but when you actually, it's so funny that words are actually just sounds that we made up. Like perfect is a different word in different languages and all that sort of stuff, but it could have been any word, right? But it's the weight that we put on the word. so it's kind of that thing of like the word love, like the word love has this connotation to it, but also it's the same thing of the word God has a connotation to it on so many different levels to so many different people, as well does like, say, Trump. That word, like, you know, it's like has a whole lot of emotions behind it. So like being perfect, it's almost a word that I'm almost trying to eradicate from my like vocabulary altogether. But being imperfect is this concept of just be and enjoy being. You know, you know, there's the saying, you know, we're human beings, not human doings. And so often, you know, it's that concept that I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I should be doing this. And we're always living in this future or like, oh, I should fix up this photo, I should post something, or I should, you know, like, man, I, you know, give something for the fans to like, or that kind of stuff. Or I shouldn't have said that on the podcast. Like, here's the thing. The best thing about coming on here is that I can't take back anything that I said. You know, on an Instagram, like, I can't take back anything I said. And I don't want to live like that anymore, of having to try and filter myself. Or if I go off on a tangent and say something, like I want to be giving and I want to reveal. And I love the freedom of live or recording live like this, that it forces me to practice being imperfect. And you know, it's like, you know, practice makes perfect. But it's really like practice of being imperfect makes perfect. You know, it's that kind of concept of like, you got to keep practicing being imperfect live in front of everybody, because it's scary at first. It is so scary, but it opens up so many doors. And when you actually are honest, and the funny thing was that when you were talking about like, when you're with your friends and that the conversation we've sort of had has really been like a beautiful one that's definitely recharged me. But the concept that it's almost like we need to talk to our friends like it's a podcast. Because when it's a podcast, the other person is there to say, well, I'm here to sort of maybe reveal stuff about myself. But when you're out for a drink, it's probably they're like, I just don't want to talk about problems. I just want to like hide it. But I want to kind of hide it by complaining about this stuff because we can relate to that. And I don't want to reveal too much, you know, because everyone's trying to be their best self or trying to not be vulnerable. And, you know, everyone's got it tough. Everyone's going through something. The world is going through a massive shift right now. And, you know, I think it's just funny that we met, because now for the first time ever, I'm embracing being imperfect. You know, it's like, I need to love it, and I'm trying to practice loving it more and more. Because what I will say is it's my uniqueness. You know, if there was a certain term of perfect, then once you got there, what would happen after that? You know what I mean? It would just be like, oh, it would just be this goal that we got to, and that's it. Like it's, trust me, no one that you know is perfect. Everyone has, you know, a hair in the wrong place, or, you know, or something that they don't like about themselves. That's what we know about the biggest actors in the world. But what I will say earlier about the concept of listening, which I think I just need to touch on quickly, of the idea of not listening properly. And this is honestly, I think, trained in actors, because too often when we're learning our lines, and I've had other actors sort of say this, where they're just like, you know, I just kind of like am just waiting to say my line. You know, they're not listening whatsoever. So they're not even really acting. They're just like blocking out the other person, blah, 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 silence, my line, right? And that's often how people live too, is that they will just block. And listen, I am trying to pick up on myself as well, because we almost all want to relate. And I'm bad with this with certain friends, that when they're sort of like talking about something, I'll then sort of try and relate it so they don't feel as bad, you know. But in doing so, I am actually making it about myself, that I shouldn't necessarily do. It's not about that. It's actually, as you said, it's about listening. And this is a practice that I'm honestly trying to get better at, and with my wife as well. And you would know this in any partnership. You would have it with your kids. Yeah. It's that sometimes they actually just want to tell you something and don't want your opinion, you know, and we're the same. Like sometimes we just want to say something and don't want the opinion, but then it's kind of, you know, and we know this stuff of, you know, when they ask about something, like if it's like, oh, I really want to buy this thing, right? And you know, as a partner, you might be like, well, you know, do you need it? And then all of a sudden you get in a heated discussion about like, what, like, I'm not letting it. And I'm like, oh, well, sorry. Like I should have just agreed because I didn't realize you actually wanted it that much. Yeah. But it's just like, everything is about communication, and everything in life is usually the biggest mistakes are always a communication breakdown. It's, you know, it's that thing of like, as soon as people stop talking, especially think about it. There's a friend in your life. There's a friend in my life that I haven't spoken to for many, many years. I love him to death still. And I could pick up the phone. I text him. I think he's changed his number. I should find his number. I should try and track him down and chat. And it's that thing of like, nothing has changed except that we just haven't spoken. Yeah. But I'm sure for both of us at times we're like, oh man, I'm a bad friend. Like I actually haven't caught up on him. And I've seen his photos on Facebook, you know, but he's not on Facebook. His wife is. So I kind of shouldn't reach, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And it's like, maybe I should reach, like, but follow those intuition, you know, and know that even though you haven't spoken to them, there's no judgment. It's just like a communication breakdown. He's probably still one of my best friends. I just haven't spoken to him in a while. And that's fine because life goes on. But too often, and I know this especially with families, because I've had family kerfuffles that have meant with people not talking, you know, and all of this kind of stuff. And all I know is both sides probably think the same thing, is that the other person doesn't want to talk to me, or that the other person does. And that is completely not true. It's just, we create these stories in our own minds. And if we just either put ourselves out there and just listen, then most likely, like, to stop trying to write stories for things that we don't know. And there's so much we don't know. There's so much we don't have evidence of. And yeah, so I just wanted to talk about that listening. I know I went off topic again, but
no,
yeah,
it's important that you mentioned that, because I just want to touch on that as well quickly. When you talk about your friends and that, there's something I've implemented lately. And first of all, disclaimer, we're not trying to say that we're perfect here, and we've worked on ourselves. But
this is the whole point, is that we're saying that we're not. That is the great thing with this campaign, is it's the idea of we are not, and we will never be. It's fake. It's not real. Perfect. It doesn't exist.
But what I want to, as I would say, teach people, if anyone can take anything away from me, and I often say it because I've seen friends go through the same thing, only because it's come from me as well, and I've gone through it. You're trying to concentrate on an outcome and place your happiness on an outcome. You're forgetting, like you mentioned earlier, you're forgetting your partner or your kids. And you're thinking, the way that you're explaining it to yourself, if I can get there, then we'll be happy. Then I can spend more time with them. Then I can. We'll have X amount, then we can. However, if your partner ever turns around to you, and mine did once, and that's when I was like, whoa. And she was like, you might get there, but we're not going to be there with you, because you're going to lost us way back here. And that was such a hard hitter for me. And I was like, but I'm doing this for you. And she was like, I know you are, but all the kids are seeing is dad's not there, and I'm seeing husband's not there. And the amount of conversations I have brought that up, because now I've moved into kind of, whilst I was doing construction, everything else as well, mate, I was also simultaneously doing qualifications in coaching and all that. So I was busy. But
yeah, I bet
people that I talk to with that, it's the same thing that comes up, and they justify it over and over. And there's no judgment, because we all do it. But we judge it going, if I get that, then I'll be happy. If I get that, then I can make you happy. However, in the process, we lose all that. And that's probably what you did, like attesting to your story, your passion for it, because you were focusing on something and wanting to create and being addicted to acting. And it's, this thing called life, mate. We're always learning. And I will tell you one good thing, and my listeners are going to be fed up of hearing it, but it's so profound. And if you've never heard of it, we all look for this purpose, right? And I thought initially finding my purpose was to be of service to other people, help other people. A friend of mine put it to me. He does so much reading back to way back. But he said, I want to put something different to you. Your purpose, that can be part of your purpose. He said, but you know what your purpose is? Why do you think we're always evolving? Why do you think this blockages come up? It's about learning who we are. That is your purpose. And I was like, wow. And ever since, I've told each person that's been on my podcast. So our listeners will be fed up, but each new person who might never heard of it. But I'm like, just let that sink in and you go, it's true. Things come up, we evolve. Certain things keep coming up till we learn, we evolve. So actually, why are we looking for this happiness or purpose if we can't ever get to it, or we put in an outcome based on it? And like you said earlier, we can't reach it, because if we get there, there's going to be something else. Madness, mate.
Yeah, I mean that is incredible, and it's a powerful way to see life, and I mean that's incredible. Is your friend a coach as well, or is he just a mate that just sort of saw it that way?
He just comes out with profound things. No,
yeah,
coach. He's been doing coaching for years, but I'll tell you, he told me, he was like, when you're reading, so what I like to read is obviously a lot of Wayne Dwyer, like you've been saying, but I've immersed myself into different cultures so you can understand different cultures, because we can't judge unless we know. And then also he's talking about, don't just learn about history in terms of Romans who created this. Go even further back, the Egyptians, and learn what they taught and how it's come through the generation. So I've not gone that far yet.
Wow.
But he's amazing guy. You just listen like this. You're like, just keep talking, keep talking.
Yeah, and that's the remarkable thing, that when you do listen, the knowledge you hear. Yeah. And so too often what we watch or what we see is actually just kind of blurry white noise.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that idea of like, you really do need to A, look after your body, and B, look after your mind. And, you know, it definitely is education. And especially like my goal now is every day I need to feed my mind with something. And usually YouTube is kind of like a great place to find it. And it sort of is great because it'll introduce you to other things, or what old philosophers used to say, or all of this. Like, it takes you down different paths, and it is key to kind of keep your mind. There is so much we don't know. And there is so much that knowledge that was there that we just haven't even heard yet. And it is, as you said, we're all here to evolve, and to, you know, our purpose is to learn about who we are. One thing that I think also I'm sort of like to find out if this is one of the last things we sort of talking about, but I also changed that when I talk about my story is I'll backtrack everything that's happened in my life and all of this kind of stuff, and I'll get up to today. And then I always kind of like to end it with, and then I live happily ever after. And it's that concept that today, or at least from once you've awoken into this like prosperous, happy state, that we are living happily ever. You know, it's like that thing of like, oh, I had struggles with my marriage, and I was focusing too much on myself, but not listening or spending enough time with the kids and all this sort of stuff. And then I realized, and then I lived happily ever after. Because the happily ever after, we always think at like the end of a fairy tale is pretty much like, what does that even mean? That means like, oh yes, and then they died, or like, you know, it's like they always get married and then happily ever after, which is such a beautiful stage that things happened in the happily ever after. But you can be living that now, as long as you know that this is the happily ever after. Like, oh, I did a show and then I wasn't working, and then I felt depressed, and then I came out of it and I felt really good. And here I am with Glenn, and now we're having like an amazing chat. And after this, I got off the call and I lived happily ever after. And it's like, it's the blanks will fill in themselves, because if I live that way, and just knowing that every night that, oh yes, great, this is all a part of happily ever after. And it's always going to be different, because it is going to evolve. And who knows, if we talk in 5 years, we might be on completely, we have no idea where we'll be in 5 years' time. Yeah. But it's this concept of that's evolution. And so let's go forth. And the idea is that if we've been through it, or we've had friends that we've lost, to be able to spread this message so that we can hopefully relate to somebody out there, or maybe give a hint or a bit of a clue. And, you know, I've learned so much from you. And I hope that I've had something worth hearing about. But Glenn, I really appreciate you having me on the show. And I know I changed the time on you a couple of times. You had to do it around your family and all your work and everything you're doing. And I really appreciate you fitting me in. Yeah, it was, I feel like this is the beginning of definitely, you know, a friendship between us. And yeah, anything you need, man, I'm here. Like, I hope this was worth something to your listeners. And I hope that, you know, we can keep talking about other things that we hear and read, and or more interests.
Well, mate, I will just say, I think as much as the listeners will get that out, I just think that podcast was for ourselves to have a great chat, because that's been 2 hours. I've just
Wow, has it? I don't have a time. I just know it's getting darker out here, so it's just like
absolutely loved it, mate. I mean, yeah, thank you on behalf of myself and on our listeners, the campaign, just for anybody to share their vulnerability, their story, what they've been through, and take away, if it helps somebody, if it saves a life, to have even that hard conversation with somebody, that is the main thing. And whether I've had to change around my kids, anybody, as long as they're safe and happy, that's one thing. I've got one last question for you, mate. What is next other than fatherhood that you're working on at the moment? Just if you want to get out anything out there. But I will say to you, congratulations to yourself and your wife on the upcoming arrival. I don't know whether it's a girl or boy yet. I don't know if you want to open that. But what I will say is, and I say to everyone, learn from your kids. Because as much as we want to protect and learn and teach, the amount of things that sometimes I can sit there and go, my God, we become so suppressed on certain things that they're just not tainted by external noise. And that's why sometimes spiritual, they can see, they can hear things, and they just love life. And I suppose sometimes I listen at, like, my boy's 8 and my little girl's 2, and I just watch how she's just like, I'm a princess, I'm a ballerina, I can be what I want, I can do what I want. And I even said it to a lot of people in a business networking event the other day, and I was like, why are we not taking lessons from our kids? We've come so ingrained into thinking self-doubt, low self-esteem, we can't do this, we can't do this. Yes, we've got bills, but as long as we're able to pay them to do that, learn from our kids. And there was like silence in this networking event, and there was like, yeah, we tell our kids to go after their dreams, but we don't do it ourselves. So that's my takeaway for you, mate. As soon as your child is born, learn every little thing and enjoy it, mate.
Amazing. I on that topic, I will say that I completely agree with what you're talking about. I've always known, and it's strange, is I'll go to a house party with friends and I will most likely be running around with the kids because the kids just want to have fun.
Yeah.
And the parents probably just want to be serious. And what's remarkable, and I had like a good friend's kid. I remember I picking him up from school, and I said, oh, what happened at school? I could not get any information out of what happened. And like, if you get like, you'll notice this, I'm sure you have it with your kids. It's like, oh, how was kinder? How was school? Or like, oh, what did you do today? They do not, because they're in the now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not living in that past where I painted some picture and like I'm bringing it home for you. Like, no, it's like, what are we doing right now that's fun, Dad? Yeah. Like, I want to do that now. And you're just like, haven't we already done that a million? Well, it's fun now. Yeah. And it's kind of this remarkable thing that really is incredibly. Eckhart told this concept of children are only in the now. They're only looking for what is the best thing for right now. And I absolutely believe that we can take it out of that, like, which is true. If you're not hurting anybody, and it's like, what's fun right now? What do we want to do right now that's great and feels good? And what do I want to say right now to somebody that makes them feel good? And I don't even want to talk about that, past thing, or I'll only talk about it if it makes people feel good. Yeah. Because I went through a thing where I was like, oh, I'm feeling so good now, I'll never talk about my negative days. Because I was like, I don't even want to talk about negativity, right? I want it to be so positive. But now it's like that idea of like, I am feeling the positivity out of the negativity only because I hope that people can learn from the mistakes that I've made in my past. And it's this remarkable thing that I, the timing couldn't be better. I felt like I wanted to be a dad my whole life. And this is just a dream come true. I absolutely can't wait. And I will take your advice and learn. I am going to learn and grow from this beautiful living thing that's just going to show me unconditional love, So I'm so excited to be a dad. The next chapter, maybe next time we chat, we'll do a dad chat on the podcast, maybe next time.
How to go with that. But no, mate, I appreciate your time, everything you do. And as I say, I think it's going to be the start of something, especially speaking, mate. I think that as, mind you, nobody who's listening is going to know what that means. So I'll have to put the video.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yeah. Just shaky hands. Sorry. Shaky hands. I meant, yeah. It's, but no, Glenn, I very much appreciate you. I appreciate this whole campaign. I think you're doing amazing things, and everybody that I know would be very keen to jump on board, and congratulations with the momentum you're building. And it's just, it's full steam ahead from now on. And I just wish you all the best. And I can't wait till you just don't even message me back, because you're just so busy. And you're like, I'm sitting on a beach with my kids and family while I coach, like from around the world. It's like, yeah, I think there's some amazing things to come. And let's keep talking.
I'm actually more likely to flick the camera around and show the reality. One kid's throwing up, one kid's... That's me.
Good.
Like,
imperfectly perfect. That's what it's about. Being real. Like we gotta be real in a beautiful way. So thank you so much, Glenn.
Thank you. Guys, you can find this on Spotify or iHeartRadio. Just simply head to Imperfectly Perfect campaign, like, share, and we will chat again.